On a desert planet called QUENCH, a million light years from Earth, a group of intelligent humanoid life forms has evolved to live in almost perfect harmony with their harsh environment. With an almost mystical connection to land, the Quenchir are the guardians of the galaxy's most precious resource, water. While the Imperium consists of over 100,000 inhabited planets, very few have sufficient water to meet their needs. To keep the Imperium running and to fend off its enemies around the periphery, the Imperium's ruling body, the Imperial Court, overseen by a galactic emperor, must be forever sourcing more water. Intergalactic ice mining. Planetary spanning sky water machines, deep core drilling, and, on those few planets with something approximating oceans, desalination plants all serve to feed the Imperium's insatiable demand for water. 30 years ago, a ship of settlers landed on QUENCH. The settlers' goal? To build a sustainable settlement that would contribute to the Imperium's ever-expanding need for water. Unaware that the planet was inhabited, the settlers were shocked to encounter the Quenchia, who resisted encroachment on their sacred places. With their profound connection with the planet and with its waters, the Quenchia play a critical role in managing the land and in creating the occasional water surpluses the settlers came to exploit. Now, a generation after the first landings, relationships between the settlers and the Quenchia have reached a point where in some communities it is becoming hard to distinguish between the two groups. The settlers are adopting elements of the Quenchia's spiritual awe for the land and for the waters, and the Quenchia have found elements of the settlers' technology fascinating and useful. Appointed by the distant Imperial Court, the Imperial Governors on the planet QUENCH, comprising of a local governor and a staff of specialist advisors, must find ways to navigate this complex mix and to protect the fragile environment of their adopted planet, while always continuing to provide the Imperial Court with the water it so desperately needs to maintain and protect its vast galactic empire. Whichever group you play, settlers, Imperial Governors, or the Quenchia, you must protect the interests and the needs of your community, while also and always looking after the delicate ecological balance that makes QUENCH such an important and valuable planet. Cooperate or compete. This is a game of negotiation where each group can win separately, but if you run out of water, you all lose together. Now let's have a talk about how to play this game. I want you to imagine your classroom. And in your classroom there are 3 spaces. The teacher is going to divide you up into 3 groups, and each of these groups represents one of the player groups for the game. The Quenchia have less obvious power than some of the other groups, and they will invariably need to negotiate hard to achieve the outcomes they want and protect the ecology of the planet. The settlers in the game have more wealth and access to more levers of power, but they too will have to work hard to negotiate between the other players. The Imperial Governors have access to the most power, but to achieve their outcomes, they will have to work closely with the inhabitants of the planet they govern. When the teacher is ready to start the game, they will sit down in front of a laptop and they will put up on the board 4 measures that represent the health of your planet. You should keep your eyes glued to those measures, because they tell you how things are going and whether you're winning or losing and whether you're running out of water or not. So the 4 measures are, obviously, how much water have you got in your reserves? Do you have a great deal of water in your reserves, or are you running out and had you better think about something to get that water level back up again? The second measure is how healthy is the planetary ecology. This is important to you all. Is it getting better or is it getting worse? The third measure, which is of particular importance to the settlers, is how good is the water that is coming out of your taps that you get to drink? Is it good, poor, or deadly? The fourth measure is one that we are all in Victoria very aware of. It is water restrictions. The Imperium can impose restrictions which makes it harder to get water. The game itself happens over 30 years, basically one generation. Remember, the planet has been settled for 30 years already, and now you're into the second lot, and you're going to play the game for 30 years. Every year lasts 1 minute, so things happen fast. We've broken the game up into 5 rounds, each of 6 minutes or 6 years, because if you played all the way through for 30 minutes, we'd be exhausted by the end and it wouldn't be any fun. The way you play the game is actually really, really simple. You'll have a list in front of you of the things that you can do. Every group can do different things. The Quenchier can teach the settlers how to appreciate and utilise the resources of their planet, or they can resist. The settlers can take actions that help to grow the size of their colony and improve the quality of their life. And the Imperial governors can take actions that will ensure that the decrees of the Galactic Emperor get fulfilled and that they continue to ensure that enough water is shipped off planet to fulfill the needs of the Empire. The way you take these actions is basic. You simply put your hand up and say, we're doing this. Anything on your list at any time that you want to, you can put your hand up and say, this is what we're doing. You don't even need agreement from the entire group, although that could be a good idea. Every decision you or any other groups make will have an impact on the measures that represent the health of your planet. When you say, I want to teach the settlers how to improve the quality of their water, the teacher will push a button and the measures on the board will change. At the end of every round, you can see who's winning, and at the end of the game, the team that won the most number of rounds wins the game. Unless, of course, you ran out of water, in which case you all lose. There are 2 final things that make a big impact on how the game plays out and on your choices. At the beginning of every round, the teacher will roll a dice, and the dice will tell you whether you get lots of rain or whether you're in drought. The higher the number of the dice rolled, the more rain you will get and the more water you will find in your reserves. And define your actions for the next round. The second thing is really exciting. These are wild cards. Wild cards are things that nobody would expect to happen, and yet will have an enormous impact on the way the game plays out. They're crazy things like a pirate fleet comes and raids your water supply and takes some of it off planet, or an alien navy blockades your planet, or a vast sandstorm destroys infrastructure and damages the ecosystem. The teacher controls the wild cards, and you never know when they're going to happen. So enjoy the game, enjoy the negotiations, learn how water works on Quench, and have a lot of fun. Good luck.